Enough is enough, and it's time for a change!
Hey folks, I'm gonna upload night 1 later. Of course, I wanted to do this as a part in total, so if you ever question that I have missed Dynamite reviews, I just wanted to get most of them in total because it's like a full package special. So they were about to have night 1 and night 2, so they're probably going to do the same thing for Fight for the Fallen. That's going to be the return of Jon Moxley to defend his world title after an absence from, of course, his wife, Renee Young, interviewer for WWE, positive for COVID, so he was out of action for a while. So we have to wait for his match with Brian Cage later on, even though it would be better off on pay-per-view, but this is how they want to build up on big stars. So, the biggest thing going into tonight was, of course, the main event that would be Orange Cassidy against Chris Jericho after weeks of doing this dumb feud over a man bleeding to death and Jericho slamming his head with a bag of oranges. And then ending it up with hitting him with orange juice for a distraction. Listen, I don't know. Like, there's rarely any storytelling in the show. Other than the consistent feud with Big Swole and Britt Baker, but they're still trying to make this a consistent on-verse storyline when Britt Baker won't be back in action until freaking September. It is the middle of July. It's near the middle of July, folks. Am I supposed to care? I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I thought the match opener was fine, even though I think that Matt Hardy's forcibly doing this for leverage to at least give some reason to watch a private party, even though they're high flyers and they don't do crap. They barely win. Isaiah Cassidy had some cool moves. Bicycle kicks, super kick, a running enziguri into the face, a V-trigger out of a counter, Hangman Page always doing running shooting star presses of some kind of rolling fireman's carry. It just felt like the same crap. I mean, if you were a first timer watching this show, and you get to see the tag team championships on the line, that look great, by the way. Compelled enough to see this mismatch of course, probably these guys are in sync after the Stadium Stampede match and shit. I don't care. It was a throwaway high spots match. It ended with the V-trigger in the buckshot lariat for the victory. It doesn't even feel like devastating of a move. Like a combination of a clothesline and a bicycle kick hitting you in the face is devastating, but not for a 3 count. In my opinion, this was still a fun opener. Joey Jelena faced off against Lance Archer, and it got with a shocking opener because, of course, Joey Jelena's tagging around with Sonny Kiss. That they had this weird ass opener. It's supposed to make Sonny Kiss feel threatened, with him just trying to toot his ass up a tiny bit while trying to work with the car. And it just felt so awkward. Then he kicks the shit out of these guys for no reason. He ends up getting Gorilla Preston chucked to Joey Jelena. I don't care why Joey Jelena still is trying to be shown right here, even though he has a gamer body, trying to do super kicks and shit around in the match, forearms, while Lance Archer is just trying to beat the ever-living piss out of Joey for no particular reason other than some kind of crowd mishap. Forearms, big boots, a running lariat, a bicycle knee by Joey Jelena. I think there was a running senton by Sonny Kiss with a 450 splash. And, it ended up with a blackout. I didn't care. Of course, Archer was going to win this one. In my opinion, folks. Nothing really sold me into this match. They literally got into one intimate fight from day one of Fyter Fest, and then they just ended up fighting literally on the next week. So, of course, it was going to end with with a one-sided conclusion, with of course Lance Archer picking up the victory. But it just felt like it was just there. It was just there, and it was just there. Of course, we had a huge announcement involving. Before that, we of course had a dumbass segment involving Britt Baker catching Big Swole to get suspended for the night after tossing her into a trash can and then jumping her later on the night. So of course that was resolved. We had Taz. That's always, I think, the best promo to give to Brian Cage. But it ended up with the FTW Championship being the major announcement. Now, if you don't know what FTW means, it means, for the win. Yeah, the PG way. I mean, they're TV-14. That means fuck the world. It was Taz's. If y'all don't know, I'm gonna give you some knowledge. Of course, Taz had this as his own independent belt when the ECW World Champion was not ever going to put his belt up. So he had it. So they made it his own World Championship that independently was defended on pay-per-view. So guys like Bam Bam Bigelow, Sabu, a lot of ECW guys that you know have held the belt or at least faced him off in some cool matches. And that's literally Taz belts, and he literally rewards it to his client. Hopefully they do personalize it, because of course that's an old belt. And it would be cool if I had the Brahma Bull belt, but Jesus Christ, I want to update it. I ain't holding on to that stuff, that thing that still says, freaking. It looks like a belt buckle. It doesn't look like a belt. It just looks weird. Other than that, I think it was cool. It's nice to see the FTW belt back, but this could have been a backstage segment. All it said was this was some renegade shit. That's the only thing that kept me from falling asleep on this thing. So, it'll be better off they just made an individual belt for Brian Cage. If they wanted to do something to make Brian Cage feel more legitimate, they just give a championship belt that's over 20-something years old and hasn't been defended since 2001, probably. Next up, of course, FTR tags with the Young Bucks to face off against the Butcher and Blade and Lucha Bros in an 8-man tag. Of course, a dream tag team, of course, with the FTR building up a bit of an alliance with the Young Bucks for the last several weeks because they kept getting jumped by the Lucha Bros and Butcher and Blade on recent episodes of Dynamite. Letting them form a tag team, and it's like, this is probably going to end up with a win. No, they lose. They lose. After freaking running Canadian Destroyer over the top rope, when Pentagon was stuck with Daniel Weezer, I don't know what they call Dash Wilder now, stuck into the rope, they broke it up with Ray Phoenix doing a running punt kick. A running shooting star. As soon as the Young Bucks were tagged in from like 15 minutes of the revolt, getting some momentum, I knew as soon as that happened, they were about to do like 2-on-1 shit. It was just a spot fest to compare spot fest. There wouldn't be anything concealing any storytelling until like after the match was over, and the revolt were literally just leaving. I mean, we're just handshaking with the Young Bucks and shit. I don't care. I really don't. Shockingly, he's supposed to say weekly, and Cody is not even defending his title. Obviously, the blow-off was supposed to be him against Haker until probably they're done with these dumbass specials. Butcher and Blade barely even do anything except job. So they always have to get the more exciting tag team in there that is the Lucha Bros. And just concealment of these random indie dudes that look like rapists and probably are going to be exposed. Like the Smash player community. And it just felt so boring until like second half because they wanted to try to break their own necks. Running shooting star press, good combos into enziguris. I already know moves. Except that running sunset flip over from the middle ropes that they caught, luckily. Because that was a dumb move. It had no reason to freaking exist, but it was a fun spot. It just felt like it was just there. They were just doing moves for moves, even though the FTR and the Young Bucks are completely different styles of wrestling. And they just still made it a spot fest for no reason. You couldn't even like do the thing like try to feel like the FTR was trying to outclass the Young Bucks or the Young Bucks were trying to outclass the Revolt or something like that. It just felt like they were just doing spots to do spots. And the FTR just wrestled like they did back on Raw and SmackDown, so they were just there. Next up, we of course have a squash match involving Nyla Rose trying to get back her heat after losing to Hikaru Shida like a month prior, and it ended up with a beast bomb on two chicks. That's all that mattered. I don't care about squash matches. I made a solemn vow, unless it involves storytelling, I have no reason to care about a squash match. And whoever thinks I should be slapped. Of course, it comes into, of course, this woman, this strong, independent a woman, of course, issuing out a challenge, obviously trying to get herself a manager. That was pretty much a thing, because of course her talking is the equivalent of seeing Nia Jax twerk. And if you people got that in your mind, I'm sorry for increasing the suicide rate. I apologize. So it ends up with, of course, her licking her hands and her causing her dirty fingers and palm to touch the camera. That's practically the promo ending. I don't care about the squash match. Next up was SCU facing off against Dark Order with Colt Cabana. Of course, with a backstage segment involving him being bruised, and he's like, "We're going to help you with everything." Of course, I understand. Brody Lee's obviously trying to get more people to join. Colt Cabana been the biggest associate and the biggest asset. Of course, even going to the IR and seeing Colt Cabana there being like, these bruises, what happened to you again? Your dick getting dry. It's not going to happen again. And every time they're like proceeding, whenever any of the SCU partners are down, he always allows them to pin. Corners, running clotheslines, a running enziguri, a moonsault for a break of a pin. I felt like Stu Grayson was just there with no, questioning of Brody Lee's recruiting methods, bringing a guy that doesn't scream Dark Order at all. So it just felt like there's like nothing there except Brody Lee being like, "Hey, you want to join the Dark Order, bro? We'll help you win." Yeah. I just had no interest, folks. I apologize if you think I'm being a lack of enthusiastic here, because this just feels like it's just an episode of Dynamite. There's no reason to put the tag Fyter Fest other than to give some reason of a summer special. If you wanted to, why didn't you return Bash at the Beach? You literally put Bash at the Beach in the middle of the winter. And the only reason you did so was to bring DDP there to get to give MJF his comeuppance in the tag match. Yeah. I mean, that was a cool moment, and I liked the promo with him in DDP. With DDP and MJF, that was literally the best thing. I mean, who else would be like, you know what I'm going to do to your daughter? That got me and my brother laughing, and that was the first time he felt like, wow, that's actually a good heel. Why isn't he not on TV a lot? Of course, it ended up with the Dark Order winning in a lackluster six-man tag. Nearly every match has been six-man tags or multi-man matches. Handicap match with Nyla Rose. A freaking tag team, an 8-man tag. The opening match was a tag team match. There's only 2 singles matches the entire show, and that was only Lance Archer and Joey Jelena that had no reason to be on Fyter Fest. And then we had our main event that was Chris Jericho facing off against Orange Cassidy. And the only difference is Orange Cassidy was taking his jacket and his glasses off. I know this is supposed to be a serious feud, and kudos to Chris Jericho. He's always a legend for this. Always trying to get the top, trying to always push up and improve everybody that he's around to make them get a bigger role into the business. That is of course what a real wrestler does, and that's always some G shit. This is why I will always respect Chris Jericho. But the match really didn't hit a lot for me. Yes, there were some entertaining spots. I didn't like that the Inner Circle came with Orange Juice other than to pun the name, even though Orange Cassidy doesn't really consider his name the pun, even though the joke is he's incredibly laid back for being a professional wrestler. And that was pretty much the joke. It's always been the joke. Cool Superman punch. There's always been some fire spots. If they wanted to, they could have just made this a street fight. Yes, the best friends intervened when the Inner Circle were getting a bit too interruptive in the match with hashtag sloth style and crap like that. Tornado DDTs, a lion salt for a counter, big cheap shots. It did end up with Jericho nearly getting the win with a bad after distraction off Santana with the orange juice. Cassidy was building up steam, running for him. He was getting ready for a Superman punch, and then poof, a Judas effect. Swift, and it was a good transcendent match. It was match of the night, in my opinion. I just thought Jericho deserved, Cassidy deserved a well more esteemed match. I mean, he could have had his feud with Pac still, and I haven't seen Pac on television in like a freaking minute. All I've been seeing is his stable buddies, the Lucha Bros, and I forgot that they were stable for like a bit so they could feud with the Best Friends, and that was supposed to be a thing to make the Best Friends a legitimate tag team. Until we know these guys hold hands and they hug each other, and that's pretty much their comedic gimmick. And I kind of hate that because it just feels gay. No disrespect, but no child or grown man is going to wear a T-shirt of 2 fully grown men holding hands and hugging each other. That's not man shit. It's just raw. Cassidy did have some good fire moments, good suicide dives. Felt like he was always trying to push himself a bit farther, even though the sloth style and stuff like that. Reaching the ropes, stopping Ortiz and Santana whenever they were trying to get involved. And every time Jericho thought he could cheat himself into a win, it took more for Jericho to use the Lion Salt, Lion Tamer. Then he was using the walls. Then he got finally with the bat, and they came up with Judas Effect, perfectly selling up submissions. It just felt like this could have felt hyper because, of course, Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends are really reliant and over by crowd reactions, so it doesn't really hit that well. So that's my opinion. That's Fyter Fest Night 2. Sadly, I think this will be the first thing uploaded before Night 1. You'll get my opinion on that because that had more of a legitimate main event. So, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Tell me how you feel about Night 2 of Fyter Fest. Of course, I'll try to keep myself a bit more up to date with some of my reviews for the rest of the week. That's it coming from me, and I'll be back here with more content.